Hi, my name's Steve Bryant, and I'm a full-time session bass player here in Nashville. That's right, I'm one of these people that you never see out in public, and I'm behind the glass and playing the grooves and making up this stuff as we go along. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, but I'd first like to say that it's a pleasure to be here for Bass Frontiers magazine. I've known Dave Fowler for some time. And in fact, some of these things that we're going to talk about in these video segments, I've shown to Dave before. And what my whole thesis is, my whole idea for these segments of this videos are talking about the right things that you need to do in order to compete in the real world. So we're not going to talk so much about, shall we say, technique or anything overly technical. We're talking about things that are rock bottom solid, that will be able to teach you, you'll be able to teach yourself ways to play that is going to put you in ahead of a lot of people that are just practicing licks, for example. I found out that the hard way, and telling you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in a small town in Appalachian, Ohio called Ironton. And being a small town, there wasn't a whole lot of musicians there. Although for the first 5 years of my playing experience, I played with a lot of black bands. R&B was my thing. It's interesting that also I was raised with bluegrass. So I guess you can say it was white soul and black soul. And that was an interesting dichotomy that I was shown in music, that music is about feel. There's always technical things that you can look at in music, but you should never abandon feel. The great bass player James Jamerson said it the best. He said, if you don't feel it, don't play it. So we're going to talk about some of these things about feel, but we're going to talk about the things that I feel that for a beginner will help you, because you'll have that foundation that you'll be able to build a lifetime skill out of. For the intermediate player, you're going to find yourself in a remedial stance. And I think these things will be very valuable for players who've gone out for gigs, or they've done casuals, or they've even done jam sessions, or first things, and wondering why things don't work the right way. So what I'm going to show you are things that I practice myself every day, or a form of it at least, and we're going to again talk about the things that will allow you to compete in the real world. You know, I get asked so much by musicians, you know, how do you come up with this idea and whatnot. And speaking as a bass player, to you folks out there, bass players, one thing that we don't know enough about is we think too mechanically sometimes, we think too analytically. We don't know the notes in a chord. I've been very blessed to show musicians who've asked me, what notes are in a chord? How do you figure this out? And they just really get confused about this. And the system that I'm going to show you in these video segments will take this apart, and you'll see that the concept itself is very simple. All of these things are actually simple, but if you don't use these things appropriately and consistently practicing, it won't work. And through the private tutoring that I've done and still do when I have the time around my session schedule, teaching semi-pro and professional students, that is the one remedial skill that they need to hone in on, landing on the one. There was recently a student that had, due to his hard work, had gotten invited to a very prestigious gig, shall we say, in Los Angeles. And at the time, he was technically well prepared, a hard worker, wonderful, wonderful heart, a great emotional player. But when the band leader stopped the band and asked him what notes were in a chord, he was at a loss. And he really beat himself up thoroughly about this. And this is the whole idea. Music should be fun. It should be something transparent that our soul shines through. And once I showed him some of these systems, no, it's not anything that I invented. I literally had worked 7 nights a week, 5 sets a night for years and years. I've been playing bass since 1969, professionally since 1975, and I've done all kinds of music. And one common thread throughout that are some of these things that I'm going to show you. Again, I think you'll be surprised how simple they are. The mistake that people make, they don't see the profundity of the simple things. The great motivational speaker, Tony Robbins, said something that's always stuck with me. Repetition is the mother of skill. And if you don't have that, that repetition and really listen, and that's what we're talking about, how well you play determines on how well you listen. So I'm very big on things such as keeping a good groove, foundational things that I think too many players will pick up a bass and they'll learn something like a G major scale. And they say, well, I've got that down. Well, no, you haven't. And by the way, I've never been hired to play a scale. That might rock somebody's boat out there, but it is the truth, and my remarks stand on that. So if this, my manifesto, if you will, is very simple, it's up to you to do the work on this. This is what we're talking about, of doing the work and having faith in yourself. One of the things that Dave Fowler told me about when he had taken over the magazine, of how he was talking about preparation, and that's, I say a huge amen to that. But I will also add, in addition to what he told me, it's the magazine's philosophy of encouraging players, and that's what I encourage you to do, is to have faith in yourself and to play with feel, and don't be afraid of who you are. Do you know the bass is one of the easiest instruments to pick up and get some notes out of? It really is, but people underestimate the power of the bass guitar because it's also one of the hardest instruments to be able to play emotionally, and you can't fake it on a bass. Really, and this is what I'm going to show you, the bass commits to the note first. You must learn that. Drum machines will not do that. Playing speed exercises won't do that. Also, I'd like to caution you, I'm not going to talk about a style of music. I think that's the antithesis of what I'm trying to do here. I'm showing you how music operates, something that you can do whether you're in Cleveland doing polkas or whether you're in Miami playing in a sweatshop thing, doing R&B, Latin music, bluegrass, all of this. And I've done all of these styles of music. The one common thing was being able to play with power, standing alone, playing a groove. But here's the central thing of playing the chord, of understanding how music works. And again, it is not that hard, but the work is up to you about this. It absolutely is. The first things that I'm going to show you in the next following segments are going to be how to use a metronome. For some of you, this will be revolutionary. The concept, again, is simple. But we'll begin working on that, of arriving on the one. And it is a maintenance thing that you have to do. It's not something you just practice one time and you've got it. Think of a weightlifter. If you pick up some weights and you're working real hard, right? You're getting buff and all of that, and you're picking up the weights and doing this, and you're getting this going, right? And you had a good workout and you say, well, thank God that's over with. No, it doesn't work like that. It is a conditioning thing. So you do a little bit every day, but do the right things. The next thing that I'll show you and get into in great length in this series is how chords work. And again, it is not that hard. There's not enough bass players out there that know the notes in the chord and how it actually operates, and I'll show you how to do that. For you music scholars out there, this might seem redundant, but we'll be doing a very bass-centric thing here. It's, again, keep in mind that this is work, and I'd just like to say that you continue to believe in yourself. Go slow and enjoy music. You were made to do that, is being able to have the music come out of you, and it's not about a bunch of exercises or trying to impress people. There's only one person like you in the world, and you can bring that out. What we're talking about are the basic skills that you need to compete, and you can use these in any artistic manner. It's a pleasure to be here on Bass Frontiers magazine, and we'll see you in the next segment.